Robert Griffin III. You might have heard of him, known as RG3, colloquially. To some, known as like the guy who is responsible for Baylor being the university that it is today. In some ways, he is. Heisman Trophy winner, the only in Baylor's history, obviously. And at worst, if you get an old timer who was out there watching, the Southwest Conference champs of 1980, at worst, he would say Robert Griffin III is the second best player in Baylor football history. Depending on what generation you ask, it's Mike Singletary or it's RG3, but it's hard to argue with the hardware that RG3 brought to Baylor. And that beautiful, shiny McLean Stadium that you walk into 6 Saturday afternoons in the fall, you can thank RG3 for that. There is no bounds to what RG3 has done for this football program, this athletics program, and this university. It's called the Flutie effect. Same thing happened at Boston College in the mid-'80s. Doug Flutie wins the Heisman Trophy, and all of a sudden, BC goes from this tiny little Catholic school in the Northeast that happens to play football to a destination for top recruits in the area and a place that people are applying to all over the country. Their applications tripled overnight after the Hail Mary from Doug Flutie in Miami. And I will say Hail Mary on this podcast without wincing. I'm going to try. RG3 had that same effect on Baylor. In fact, brother, if RG3 doesn't win the Heisman Trophy at Baylor, I'm not the host of this podcast because I probably don't even hear about Baylor in suburban Massachusetts. But here we are. I have RG3 to thank for that. So talk about being an idol of this university. He is right there, man. I am such a devout fan of RG3 and what he has done for Baylor, and I thank him for so many things. He puts out a tweet this week, the other night, talking about Dave Aranda. And I'm just going to read it, although most of you have already seen it. Hearing a lot of noise around Dave Aranda and his future at Baylor after the loss to Colorado. So I just wanted to say Dave Aranda has my full support. I'm a fan of Aranda the coach and how unique he is, and I'm a fan of Aranda the man. He has been great to my family and been a phenomenal developer of men at Baylor. Every player in that locker room plays their heart out for him, his coaching staff, and the university. The God-honest truth is every player in that locker room has to understand they aren't just playing to get bowl eligible or be better than they were last year. They are playing for Coach Aranda, continuing to be able to build with them on and off the field. Coach Dave Aranda is worth not giving up on. Coach Dave Aranda is brilliant and a leader of men. The only people who can turn the season into a success are the players in the locker room. The only one who can get the fans to buy back in are the players in the locker room. It won't be easy, but God gives his toughest battles to his strongest warriors. Hashtag sick 'em. The part about RG3 putting it on the players as a former player himself makes a lot of sense because we get pretty quick to throw it out there that it's Coach Aranda's fault. And you heard me the past couple of days go through all kinds of emotions. And yeah, I'm putting a little bit more on Dave Aranda than I am on the players for that particular game and that alignment on the Hail Mary, which I've been told is not a Hail Mary. But in terms of just this impassioned plea, cry to Baylor fans and to whom it all may concern that you can't fire Dave Aranda, I kind of read that and said, whoa, 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 whoa. Where is this coming from? And he starts it by saying, I'm hearing a lot of noise about Dave Aranda and his future at Baylor after the loss to Colorado. You were? Really? Because look, I did the live post game and I have the comment section, and there were absolutely some people that said fire Aranda. The time is now. And we know that there's definitely a sect, whether it's a majority or the minority of Baylor fans that are saying fire Aranda and have been saying for a while now. But was that like an uproar after Saturday night? That's kind of my thing here. Like, where did this come from? I follow, plenty on social media for Baylor and the message boards and my comment section. I didn't see any more than I normally would after a Baylor loss. And what's kind of funny about this is we have thought so much in depth and in detail over the last year or so on how Dave Aranda would be fired or what it would take to keep him in his position now. And we've gone through the weeds, how many wins it needs to take, how much better do they need to look, what games do they need to win, and which games can they not afford to lose. We've looked through so much of that. And none of it was in my head after the loss Saturday night. First off, he didn't get fired after a 3-9. He's not going to get fired when the record's 2-2. It's not going to happen. Okay. And so that's why I'm wondering, like, this isn't new. You know, if you were going to make an impassioned cry for Dave Aranda, it probably should have been after that West Virginia game last year. Because I think a lot of us were expecting an announcement the next day. Some of us going into that press conference thinking, what if Mac Rhodes is the first one to take the podium here? Like, that's how close it felt like we were to Dave Aranda getting fired last football season. And then after having Coach Prime on the new podcast, Out of Pocket podcast with RG3, once Dave Aranda loses to Coach Prime, he's like, do not fire this man. No way. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It wasn't, his job security really wasn't any different than it was 2 days before the loss. Like, if we're being honest, if they kept him after a 3-9 season, they're keeping him through the season. If it was a 1-4, 1-5 start, maybe that's different. But at this point, where again, we have seen that the team looks better, they're going to keep him throughout the season. They went 3-9 last year. And again, as much as I love RG3 and what he's done for this university, it's not like he's here every Saturday and has that pull in the athletic department like a Bob Stoops would have at Oklahoma. If Bob Stoops doesn't like the OU coach, that OU coach, his days are numbered. Even Grant Taft, who's still at all these games, he would never do it because he's a very classy guy. But if he didn't like the head football coach and came out and said he didn't like the head football coach, that guy's days would be numbered as at Baylor. But RG3 isn't necessarily that anymore. He's still the best player ever to play at Baylor, but it's not that same kind of pull. You know what I mean? And certainly, I don't know that he would say that publicly if he did want the coach to be fired. So I don't know. When I first read it, I was like, is someone reaching out to him to ask him to say this? Like, it doesn't feel like a thing Baylor would do, but like, what's kind of going on here? So I was more confused than anything of why RG3 was coming out and saying, no, don't do it. Don't do it. It's like you're sitting in like a quiet, waiting room at a doctor's office, and someone just comes running in being like, don't pull the fire alarm. It's like, okay, all right. We weren't. Okay. There was a fire here a couple hours ago and nothing happened. We didn't pull the fire alarm then. So no, trust me, like, everything's fine. That's kind of the way I thought about this. So it just kind of was out of left field. Baylor's best ever players defending their head coach just like that. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Did I miss a report that like he was about to get fired? I don't know. And no one else was like, throwing themselves into the defense plea. And then again, I didn't see anyone on social media that was like, he needs to be gone now or else, Baylor. I mean, obviously some people think that, but no one of a stature like that was like, hey, it's time for him to go. And there weren't even, folks in the media. There were no think pieces. I mean, this is a day after no one even asked at his press conference about the Hail Mary. I don't think there's a bunch of heat on Dave Aranda right now. And all it does is bring attention to everyone else around the country to say, oh, yeah, that is a weird coaching situation there. Baylor kind of stinks. I forgot that this was their head coach. He's still there. Why haven't they fired this guy? To me, that's all that's happening with this tweet. That's all. So I found that very interesting of like where this was coming from. I do want to know what you guys think. Drop that in the comments below. Did you think this was out of nowhere? Did you find this to be inspiring? Did you think this was going against the grain? I just thought it was like a big, like nothing burger after what happened on Saturday. Tough loss, but I don't think his job was really in danger after that loss to Colorado. Maybe that's just me.
Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. We really appreciate that. And if you want to keep up to date on all the Baylor sports news, be sure to give us a like and ring the notification bell, because we are your first listen today and every day. We are your exclusive home for nothing but Baylor sports content 5 days a week that's not coming straight from the university. Be sure to follow us here on YouTube and also wherever you get your podcasts, and on Twitter as well at Locked On Baylor. Thanks so much again. Have a good one, and sick 'em.